So, today, we're going to talk about Reiki, but maybe not in the way you're used to hearing about it. We're going to skip past a lot of the modern stuff for a minute and dive right into its really dramatic, real-world origins. This isn't a story that starts in some quiet, peaceful retreat. Oh no, this story was forged in the middle of an absolute citywide catastrophe.
And that brings up a really big question, one that's going to frame this whole thing for us. How is any belief really tested? I mean, think about it. When does a new idea, a new way of thinking, stop being just a theory and become something proven, something that actually works in the real world? Well, that's exactly what this story is all about.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Tokyo, back in the early 1920s, and our story centers on a man named Mikao Usui. Now, after what's described as this really profound spiritual experience, he comes up with a completely new method for healing. But here's what's so interesting. Usui didn't just, have this idea and keep it to himself. No way. He immediately wanted to share it, so he set up the Usui Reiki Rohogakai, which was basically a formal society for practicing and teaching his new method. See, right from the get-go, this wasn't just some personal philosophy. It was designed to be a community practice. So, by 1922, things are really starting to happen. He opens his very first clinic and school right in Harajuku in Tokyo. The groundwork is laid, everything's moving forward. But his work had barely even started when just 1 year later, something totally unforeseen, something devastating was about to happen, and it would put his new method and his entire community to the ultimate test. Right when things were just getting off the ground, disaster struck Tokyo. I mean, the world that Usui and his students knew, it was about to be turned completely upside down. It all came down to just one single cataclysmic event. An event that would change not just their lives, but the entire legacy of Reiki, forever. And that event, it was the Great Kanto Earthquake of 1923. Now, we are not talking about some minor tremor here. This was an absolutely catastrophic disaster that literally leveled huge parts of Tokyo and the whole region around it. You just can't overstate the scale of the destruction. It was immense. Buildings were collapsing everywhere, fires were raging out of control, the entire city was thrown into absolute chaos, and right in the middle of all that wreckage, a massive human crisis was starting to unfold. So here's the pivotal moment, right? Their city is in ruins. People are desperate. They're hurting. What do? How did Usui and his students respond to this? Did they hunker down, protect themselves in their new clinic? Or did they do something else entirely? Well, for them, the choice was clear. They didn't hide. They didn't even hesitate. They made the incredibly courageous decision to walk straight into the wreckage. Their mission suddenly became crystal clear and so direct. Get out there, provide healing, and offer compassion to literally anyone they could find.
And look, this was not some small token effort. Usui and his students, they went out into those devastated streets and they just worked tirelessly. They were offering their hands-on healing to just an overwhelming number of people. People who were injured, traumatized, they were providing comfort and care when folks were absolutely desperate.
And this act of selfless service, right in the face of an unimaginable disaster, this would become the defining moment for Reiki. Its reputation wasn't built in a quiet, calm, healing room. It was forged in the fire, in the chaos of one of the city's greatest crises ever. The impact of this was, it was transformative. Think about it. Before the earthquake, the Usui Reiki Ryohogakai was just this small, pretty much unknown society. But after their direct, compassionate action on the ground, they earned widespread recognition. Their work was this incredibly powerful public demonstration of what Reiki could do, right when people needed it the most. You see, this crisis proved that Reiki was so much more than just a spiritual concept. It was, and I love this quote, a tool for real-world compassionate action. It literally went from being a theory to being an undeniable, proven practice right there on the streets of a ruined Tokyo.
All right, so let's just quickly recap the big takeaways here. First, Reiki's foundations weren't tested by critics or skeptics, but by a massive, real-life historical disaster. Second, its value wasn't just talked about, it was proven through direct, selfless, humanitarian service. And finally, that crisis, that was the catalyst. That's what took Reiki from being a small, local group and turned it into a practice that was recognized far and wide.
And all of that leaves us with one last question to chew on. Thinking about this whole story,
What do you think really defines a legacy? Is it just having a brilliant idea, or is it having the courage to put that idea into action when it truly, truly matters most?